Hello, everyone. Welcome to this edition of the Hall podcast. We got a goalie, a doctor, and a sportscaster walk into a pub. No, just kidding. They all walked into the podcast. Today in the studio, we have three guests that have all been on the podcast before. Unfortunately, I don't know what episodes. Mark's going to put that in the notes. But today we have Corey Hirsch, Bob Marjanovich,
you got it right.
the Moj,
Yeah.
and Dr. John, who's going to say his last name, and myself. Welcome to the Hall. Hey, John, so for the record, say your last name.
Ogrodniczuk.
Okay, Ogrodniczuk. I would have got it.
Yeah,
I
that's
would have got it.
Yeah,
So, and we have John Ogrodniczuk with us this evening. All right, everyone, thanks for coming in.
It's a good Ukrainian name, isn't it?
Polish.
Polish.
Yeah.
Oh, my buddies with the Chuck in their last name are
Oh,
all
yeah.
Ukrainian.
I get that all the time.
I thought it was Irish.
You know what? I joke about that, but people have mistaken it for Irish.
It just depends on the crowd you're in.
Oh, yeah.
So today, I guess everyone's been on the podcast before. So, John, you're with Heads Up Guys.
Mm-hmm.
I butcher that every time because it's 50-50 if it's Heads Up Men or Heads Up Guys.
Guys.
And so we got the right 50 that time. So
There you
Heads
go.
Up Guys. We had you on most recently, Bob. And then Corey's been on. We've met a couple times. We had you on the podcast, and we saw you another time at Hockey Helps the Homeless. So today we're going to solve all the drafting and hockey problems for the province. And more importantly, we're going to talk about men's mental health and mental health in general.
That sounds great.
Beautiful.
So you're the co-host, so yeah, take it away. We all get paid the same, by the way.
Oh, yeah? I only got pizza. What did you get?
I got the same pizza.
I was going to ask about gas money to get here.
You're talking when you showed up in a limo.
Yeah. Well, I have to appreciate you guys having all of us here. It's a topic that is incredibly important and not talked about enough. And having a forum like this where we can have an open, honest, and frank conversation is really, really important.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Yeah. It's nice to have you guys here. And it's nice to have people that are passionate about the topic like yourselves. Obviously, in past years, it hasn't been an easy topic to talk about, right? So, guys like yourselves are ones pushing that envelope and making it kind of open forum, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I'm so happy to have you guys here too. I know Corey, your advocacy work has been absolutely tremendous and such an important thing to not only start conversations but be a model, because that's what a lot of us guys really need. We need positive male role models to demonstrate that it's okay just being authentic.
Yeah,
And that's the
Thank you.
critical thing. And I know, Bob, you've done your own advocacy work and supporting the work of Heads Up Guys as one of those examples, because there's so little for men out there, and being able to sort of band together to just push an important agenda, guys looking after their own health, but guys looking after their male friends too. And that's such a critical thing that we don't really talk much about. Related to that, it's a little plug for Heads Up Guys, we just launched a peer support course, and it's really about teaching people how to support guys in their life who might be going through a tough go. And, that part is obvious. If I've got a friend who's struggling and I witness it and I want to help, how do I help? But secondarily, and an incredibly important secondary benefit of that, we all feel good when we help others.
Yeah. And, that's one of the things, too. I know I referred a friend of mine to you, and he was going through a difficult time in his life, and I said, hey, I got a guy. And, I saw him afterward, and he said it's a game changer, right? Just being able to talk about things with you and everything that he had gone through, and the fact that, you helped him immensely. And that was just, him talking to me about some of the things that he was dealing with. And then, I'm saying, hey, talk to this guy. He could help you out. And like I said, he said for him it was a game changer. So, that's all it takes sometimes is it doesn't take a lot. Sometimes it just takes listening. Sometimes it just takes referring to, the proper source, and we can all help each other out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'll throw that right back at you. For what you guys do is incredible. Because I couldn't imagine it's anything like this. When I was going through my struggles, early '90s, to seeing rooms, packed and events and things that you guys are doing to see men's mental health everywhere. Part of the reason I struggled for as long as I did was because there was nowhere to go. There was no one to open up to. There was no one to talk to. It was just you suffered alone. Because if you did, and you talked about your struggles, you were looked down upon, or you were worried about what other people would say about you, and especially being a National Hockey League goalie, right? So today where we're at, and with all the groups and especially with Heads Up guys, what you guys do, I'm so appreciative, because to see that, I never thought there would be a day. I really didn't.
I think too. The other thing too is like you talked about. I think there's a stigma with your socioeconomic status, right? I mean, Corey mentioned being a goalie in the NHL. Well, hey, you're a goalie in the NHL. You got to be mentally tough, or if you have a certain status in life. Well, I'm a doctor. I'm not going to be going through depression, or I'm a lawyer or whatever, right? And it impacts everybody. No matter what you do for a living, you can wind up in a situation where you need some help. And I think by having these forums, these discussions, and just allowing people to just allowing them to hear the fact that no matter where you are, or what you're doing, or what your status is, you can always get help, and it shouldn't be frowned upon. And I think that's the cool thing.
It should be expected.
Yeah, great point.
It should be expected.
One of the things you're saying there, it's coming from like the '90s to now. There's been so much growth in the topic. So your friends are looking out, people are reaching out. Depending on the circles you're in, some people are maybe more inclined to talk to their friends or whatever. But the other part of that is you got a lot of friends that'll listen and a lot of friends that will help. Hopefully, a person has that in their life. But it's like sometimes it's kind of like I'm looking at like two guys getting together and they're gonna like build a shed, but they don't know how to build a shed. So you got one guy going, "Oh, I think we could do it like this," another guy's going, "Yeah, I think we could do it like that." Well, then like you say, you refer your friend over to John, and you talk to somebody that actually has some training in the subject, right? Where so there's listening and help, and then there's like some like help at a higher level, right?
Yep. And we all play a role, there's this continuum of help where we're all by ourselves, trying to help ourselves. Sometimes you might have the right knowledge and skill set to do that. Very often you don't. And then you get professionals. But the need is so great, the professional end of the continuum will never be able to meet the need. So we've got this giant gap. Well, how do we start addressing the gap? And that's where it's literally us helping each other, and that the formal name is called peer support, but it's being a kind, caring, giving human being, and very often people say, well, I know he's struggling, I really want to help, but I'm not a professional, I'm not a doctor, so almost in a way I can't help. And it's like, are you a good human being? Yeah, of course I am. That's all you need. You just need a little direction and guidance about how to engage.
Sometimes it's just having somebody to listen to, right? That's the other thing too, is like, sometimes it just helps you so much just to unload your problems and talk to someone who has a positive outlook and, tries to give you words of encouragement. So that's obviously something that comes into play as well.
Yeah. When I first started doing my talks a few years back, it was, I went out and I thought, okay, I'm going to see if I can get people to raise their hand and ask for help. That was kind of the main goal. Now it's shifted in the sense that my goal is to get the audience to be a safe space for other people. It's almost more important to be that person that somebody can talk to, because we're not all going to, like, I'm in a good place right now, like I'm not struggling, I'm doing well. Come talk to me, right? I'm going to be a safe space for somebody at some point when I'm struggling. I want to know that there's a safe place for me to go. When I was, when I was struggling at my worst, it felt like there was just nobody I could go to.
Yep.
Right. So be that person that somebody can talk to, and you don't have to be an expert. No one's asked me.
Exactly.
But do you know a doctor? Do you know somebody that you can refer them to that can help them? Absolutely, we all do. That's all you need to do. And well, just like you said, sometimes people, they just want you to listen. They're trying to sort things out in their own head and what way to go. And there's also the power of sharing your own story, right? We all got one. And the power of sharing comes in the sense that if you've gone through something and you can share that, it makes people feel less alone, right? Like when I wasn't doing well, I thought I was the only person in the world.
That is such a great point, because that's almost a universal phenomenon. When we're struggling and we're really in the shit, so to speak, it's such an isolating experience. We truly think we're the only ones that feel that way, and thus we're very afraid to share that, because we're going to be looked upon as different, weak, not good enough, and you feel shame because of that. And so we just hold it in. Well, we know what happens when we do that. It just gets worse. It never gets better. And so being able to reach out and share, and that's the important thing when, if we're trying to help somebody, we're not in a role where we're ever expected or needed to fix somebody. Like Bob said, it's just be there to hear, be there to validate, and just listen, because that's a really important thing that all human beings have, is a need to feel heard and understood. So if I come to you, Corey, and I'm having a rough go, just because I'm coming and approaching you, I'm not asking you to fix me. I'm just saying, can you be here with me?
Just being able to listen, right? And that's the big thing. Yeah. Just, like you said, being heard. And I think anyone who goes through a difficult time sometimes just needs to unload, just needs to talk. Yep. And, it's not like the person that you're talking to has a doctorate and can, quote, fix you, which is obviously almost, I don't think you get fixed. I think you just learn how to deal with certain situations. Right. But at the same time, just having that ability to talk to someone. And, sometimes, the other thing too is, like, say people have gone through tough times, and they've gone through tough times and they've come out of it. So it's almost like you feel some comfort in talking to someone who has kind of gone through a difficult situation. I talked to one friend of mine, and he told me about his tough times and how he got through it, and, he's doing great. Well, that's the thing. I mean, just that that there are other people out there that are experiencing what you're experiencing in terms of anxiety or depression or whatever the case may be. But there is light at the end of the tunnel, right? So that's the cool thing about talking with other people as well.
Yeah, and I always say, go see your doctor. And I get, I don't, I'm embarrassed to tell my doctor and all this. Your doctor is seen and heard way more than you can ever imagine. And
exactly.
I've got some doctor buddies out there that are like, like that. So you're not going to tell them something that they haven't heard. You're not going to tell them something that they don't know about, So I always say the first place is go see your doctor, right?
Absolutely.
Talk to a buddy. Or if that is it, and then if you're the person out there listening, let's and if you got to be the buddy that makes that appointment for your buddy, well then, do it, because sometimes people are in rough shape, right? They don't have the ability or whatever to even reach out themselves to their own. So, there's all sorts of different ways to help without being a qualified counselor or psychologist or whatever. I'm a former goalie. I'm not qualified to help anybody, but I can lead you in the right direction.
The other thing too, though, I think, and this is an interesting part of the discussion, is that your friend or whoever is going through these problems, they need to know they need to get help, right? Yeah. And that's, I think, a real critical part. And I've had the privilege, I guess, of talking to a lot of athletes who, hit rock bottom and then rebounded. And a lot of times for them, it was, like Corey says, it was that stigma. Hey, I'm a National Hockey League goalie. I can't be asking for help or whatever the case may be. But when you realize that you do need help, and then you ask for help, and then you get the help, well, now you're on the right road. But I think a lot of times there's this belief that, I can handle this no matter what. Well, sometimes it's maybe you can't handle it and you do need help, and there's no shame in asking for help, right? That's the big thing, is that you have to realize that you need some help sometimes and go out there and ask for it and get it.
Yeah, it's, you see a lot in, in music and in sports. You see people like, obviously yourself, Corey, but you see people a lot in music where their music is about their mental health struggles, or you can see the following they get because so many people can relate to that, right? And you think about like mental health and and the struggles people have, whether it's anxiety or stress with their work or whatever, well, that has no boundaries. So, you know, I'm a pipe fitter and I have stress on the job or stress in my family or whatever. It's no different than pro athlete that's expected to perform night after night and maybe has a lingering injury or trouble with at home with their kids or whatever.
Hey, guess what? If you do a bad weld, you don't have 20,000 people booing you, right?
Not quite that high. There might be a few boos, but exactly right. You're not skating off the ice with your head hung low, right, or whatever. So, but yes, those stresses don't know any boundaries, right?
Yeah.
You know, color of your skin, you know, the color of your eyes, you know, how you know, whatever you're into, work wise or whatever. There's no boundaries. And so everyone, depending, you know, I think that's sometimes the case is people look at someone from a distance. They go, oh, like they have a nice home, they have a family, and you make some assumption. That doesn't mean that they don't have the same struggles that, you know, the guy walking by has, right?
Yeah, could be physical, it could be financial, it could be mental. I mean, a whole bunch of stressors. And again, like you talked about, it doesn't matter what your status is in society, right? I mean, there could be a guy who is losing it because his business is in really bad shape, and there could be a guy who is losing it because he can't pay rent at the end of the month, right? So again, it doesn't matter where you are or what you do. It's those stressors are there for everyone.
We're all human.
Yeah.
We all experience pain. We will all suffer. We'll all experience different types of hardship. And just to recognize that we all share that fate, if you will, and give people the grace and benefit of the doubt that, you know, if they're suffering, it's okay. Maybe I'm not at this time, but perhaps I had in the past, and certainly we will. As an example, loss. We'll all experience loss. And that's a universal human experience. And just to be able to give each other the respect and dignity that every human being deserves, that's really all we need and to know about to be able to engage others.
And you know, the other thing too about loss, I think sometimes, and I think this goes on just about every facet of dealing with this issue, is we check in with somebody, we make sure that they're okay, and then kind of forget about checking in again, right? There's nothing wrong or bad or whatever in terms of checking in 2 months later, 3 months later, 3 weeks later, whatever the case may be, when you feel it's justified. I'll give you an example. I had a friend of mine who suffered a loss, and we were talking, and I said, you know, this situation now, everyone's coming over, everyone's like, you know, bringing food and checking in on you. I go, where it really kind of hits you, and having gone through it, is that period, maybe 2-3 weeks, whatever, when all those people stop coming and you actually have to deal with those emotions. And that's when you need somebody to check in on you and say, hey, how are you doing? Hey, you want to go for a bite to eat or whatever, right? So I think it's an ongoing process with people that you know and care about and love or whatever, is the fact that if they are dealing with something, you know, just because you, quote, think they're out of the woods at that point, don't be afraid to go back and check on them like a month later, 2 months later, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, and I'll share it. I'll share a quick story. It's a personal story. I had a girlfriend that took her own life years back, and you know, I'll try to get through this quickly. But you're right. After about 2-3 weeks, I started drinking, and I never had a drinking problem before this. And this is what happens is people start to turn to substance abuse, right? You know, because you're self-medicating. I was self-medicating. Something traumatic had happened. You know, after about a year of thinking I was fooling everybody, going to work, showing up, everything, you know, I got a phone call from a buddy, and a buddy was Daryl Sador, who most you would know. Yep. And he's like, hey, can I chime a few other people in on this call? Next thing I know, there's 6 people on this call. Dr. Brian Shaw from the NHL Rehabilitation Facility, a couple other my buddies, a couple other NHL buddies. And I'm like, holy crap, this is an intervention, right? Something I never thought I'd be a part of, right? That's for alcoholics. That's for drug addicts. That's for, right? And so I stopped drinking, you know, for a while at that point right there. And that was when I started to heal, because I tried to go around the pain with booze, right? And I had to go right through the middle. I had to heal. I had to feel it. But to Moja's credit, it's like, that's the thing, you got to check in on your buddies, right? But we always don't want to get in somebody's business. It's, he's hurting. We don't want to get in his business. Got to get in somebody's business sometimes, because you never know. They might have saved my life. I don't know, right? History of mental health issues, but, not to get off topic and all that, but substance abuse goes in hand with mental health with your buddies, right? And if you go to a buddy and you want to talk to them about it, they might not take it. They might not take it well. They might not. But I guarantee you that if that person, once they do want to get healthy and well, because you can't force anybody to get help. They have to be ready themselves. And once they do, you're going to be the first person that they're going to come to, right? And I always say, you know what, if you got to get in someone's business, you got to get in someone's business, because people don't, we have Hastings Street. Sorry, I'm being long-winded here.
No.
But people are like, we look at people there with disdain and this, and every person on that street wanted to be a hockey player, wanted to be a lawyer, wanted to be a doctor. They didn't say, hey, I want to end up on the street. This is, that's what I want to be. No, something traumatic has happened. They're self-medicating for the most part. Yeah. Can't put up a crime and all that stuff. But point being is that even your buddies, right? We talk about grief. Something traumatic can happen. They can turn to, substances or whatever. And it's to Moj, to your point, is to check in, right? Yeah. Just check in. Right? See where they're at. And if you have to get in someone's business, you got to get in someone's business.
You guys dropped a lot of juicy nuggets right there, so I want to pick up on some of these threads. One is the substance abuse. That story you shared, that is such a common story, because when somebody's struggling with any types of substance, all we see is the behavior, and people tend to judge based on the behavior. What we often fail to recognize is that there's always some kind of pain underneath, some kind of pain, suffering, psychological pain, financial pain, physical pain, all sorts of things. And we know that underneath, no one starts picking up a bottle as an example and say, hey, I thought it'd be kind of cool to be an alcoholic. Well, that doesn't happen. They're trying to escape from the suffering. And because of the addictive properties of a lot of these substances, it becomes a problem unto itself. And, you said, get in people's business, reach out. Oh, but a lot of time has passed. I don't want to bother him. I don't want to feel like I'm interfering. Think of it like this. Every time you reach out to somebody, it's saying to them, you matter to me. You Absolutely. Matter to me.
Well said.
What do each of us really want? We want to feel like we matter to others.
Yeah,
it's
question.
Such a critical thing.
And underneath, substance abuse, it all comes back to mental health. It really does. Everything does. Even somebody suffering from cancer, or somebody suffering a loss, or somebody, something happens. It all comes back to mental health. I talked to Sheldon Kennedy years ago, as a friend of mine, and he said, Hershey, I can't change the incident. We can't change the incident. It's not going to change. But what happens is then it becomes mental health after that, right? Mm-hmm. And that's where we need to help people.
Yep.
Is that like one of the things that I've heard in talking to a friend who went through a significant loss? They said you don't really, I guess, like you said, you can't change things. You can't go back, but you're given tools, and it's like a toolbox, and you have a various. Speaking of tools, probably a Milwaukee toolbox, but you open up, nice plug, right?
Right.
How many years did I spend in radio? So, but you have a toolbox, and you just have different tools at your disposal that you learn how to deal with your situation. It's not a situation that you can't erase what happened, or you can't erase that loss, but you learn how to deal with it through various methods that you learn.
Absolutely. We can never undo our experiences, good, bad, or otherwise. Yeah. They happen. How we manage these different experiences is going to depend on those tools we have. And that's kind of the analogy that I use for guys about therapy. Well, therapy is just a bunch of, just complaining and whining, I don't want to get into my childhood, nobody's going to make me cry. Well, that's not therapy. Therapy is about literally understanding your mind better and developing those skills, developing those tools, if you will, to approach life in a different way.
Yeah. And I didn't I didn't become a goalie by doing it myself. I had coaches, right?
Of course.
You know, no one hands you the manual of life when you're born. You know?
Yeah,
So you
exactly.
you learn, right? That's exactly it.
And our jobs is to help teach each other.
You see if you know someone, like I've had good friends, and you know, watching them go through struggle and, you know, kind of where they're at, or you know, like you talk about behavior, right? It's you can see something that's like, it's like, okay, well, this isn't them. This isn't the person I know or I've known for a long time. Sorry. But then, you know, kind of during therapy, it's never post-therapy, because therapy, you might go and stop and go again, whatever. But you can see, if you're close enough with a person, the way they change, and it's how they speak about themselves, how they carry themselves, and just some of the kind of little nuances of their life that they've changed. You know, I physically have been able to see it, and just in talking, just the way they talk about themselves, and it's like, it's okay, like they've addressed an issue, whatever it may be, learned about themselves, and through that they've processed and kind of come through that with a different understanding of who they are, and
Exactly.
you can just see it in how they handle themselves or carry themselves. And it's when you're paying attention to someone that close and you see it, you're like, that's what growth looks like.
Yep, absolutely.
You know, and there's just there's so much more, you know, that we could just sit and we could beat around everything, you know. It's just, but it's, again, it goes back to, you know, when you're a guy, like it's just being there for your buddies. I have, you know, I grew up in a locker room. You know, there was a lot of stuff said, you know, that suck it up type mentality, you know, all that stuff. And, you know, where did it get me? You know, you can still be a man and fix cars and do whatever you want to do and go get help and go see therapists, right? It doesn't make you, it actually makes you more of a man. It makes you stronger. I was actually a better goalie after I got help. And unfortunately, nobody wanted me after that point because I was only 5'10". But you know, like, getting help is a strength, and it's you know, I'll name off a few of my buddies that I have a group of buddies that it's like we're like a little village and we help each other. One's Ryan Vandenbush, Moj, these guys you would know, Riley Cote, Ryan Malone, Glenn Metropolit. They're all former hockey players. A few of them very, very tough men, you know, on the ice and off the ice. They're the best people I know. Like, if I got an issue, I'll call one of them up. Hey, what do you think of this? You know, what do you think of that? And you also got to be not afraid to pick up the phone and just reach out. So find your group, find your posse, find your boys, you know.
Yeah.
And if there's one that doesn't listen to you and doesn't want, well, they're not your people. Well, you'll find 3 more that are somewhere else, right?
I'm really glad you brought up that point. And it's like, if people can't accept you for who you are, those are people that you don't need in your life.
Yeah.
It's that straightforward. People are going to judge you for being real, authentic. If that's not good enough for them, that's not your problem. That's their shit to own.
The other thing too, though, sometimes I think you may have friends that do care, but just don't know how to deal with it, right? There's people that are still old school in the sense they shove everything under the carpet, right? And
That's different though. That's not engaging at all. You know what I maybe you're referring to, Corey, is people like judging.
yes, yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, you were talking about part of the judgment is, you know, in the space of man and mental health, there's this stigma. It's like, oh, if you're struggling, you're weak. And it's like, okay, well, are you strong? Do you like to be strong? Oh, yeah. Well, are you strong enough to help a friend when he needs it?
Yeah.
Or, you know, I said, do you like to do hard work? So the guys coming to therapy, do you like to do hard work? Oh, yeah, like, are you ready for some hard work? Because this is going to be the hardest thing you've done in your life. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? You know, some weeks or maybe some months go by. Oh, now I know what you mean.
And then and how thankful you are for it after it happens.
Every
right?
single time. My God, I wish I would have done this years ago. Years ago.
But you know, the thing is too, is like Corey was saying years ago, it might not have been an option. It might not be available. And that's the cool thing about where we're at now. And, you know, Corey talks about when he played, there was no help. now you do get help. I mean, guys, I mean, I remember days when guys wouldn't miss games because of childbirth. They'd still play. Now you see guys taking 3-4 days off. Major League Baseball has a paternity list where they actually give guys 5 days off to go witness the birth of their kids. And, there was a player on the Canucks, Brock Besser, who missed a handful of games because his dog died, right? Obviously an impact on him to the point where he had to take some time off. But you imagine that in the 90s?
No, not a chance.
Right?
Not with Keenan.
Yeah. Well, a lot of things not with Keenan. But you imagine that like in the 80s or the 90s, like they didn't allow guys to take time off for childbirth, never mind for, having a loss of a dog or something like that. So it's come a long way in terms of mental health, I think. But there's still a long ways to go, too.
You're absolutely right. I think we've come a tremendous way, but we also have to acknowledge the baseline that we're starting from, was not very good. So we do have a long way to go. But, the fact that we're having this conversation is important. A resource like Heads Up Guys, I can't tell you how many times people have reached out to us and said, thank you. Again, to the alone, the aspect of feeling alone in that experience, just knowing that there's something out there for guys, it validates their experience. We have a lot of video first-person stories, written first-person stories, dudes just sharing their experience, sharing what works so that maybe it helps other guys. And that is usually the thing that people are pointing out most in their correspondence with us. And it's like, you know what, just knowing other guys have gone through this, what I'm going through, and have come out on the better end, that alone I feel better from just that. Just knowing that I'm not alone.
What are you seeing most of? Are you seeing a lot of financial relationship stuff, or what do you see quite a bit of these days? Well,
that's a great question. We have something called the stress test. So we developed this self-check tool called the stress test. It goes over the more common stressors. We took a deep dive into literatures, see what's there. And we've had probably close to 150, 200,000, I can't remember the number, guys fill this out. The two most prevalent stressors that these men have reported, loneliness and lack of purpose or meaning in life. 60% of the men who have filled out this stress test have said one or both of these are significant stressors in my life. And the other ones are financial stress, relationship stress, and stress at work.
It's interesting you talk about lack of purpose, and I can share some stories. But so like everyone says, hey, you're a professional athlete, your career's over, you're set, there's no problems. Well, I'll never forget what Joe Theismann told us, the former NFL quarterback whose career came to an end with a gruesome leg injury.
Oh, right.
And he was in Vancouver for the Lions Orange Helmet dinner. And one of the things he mentioned during that dinner was like when his leg was broken, he knew his career was over. And he said his entire life he'd been Joe Theismann, quarterback, football player. He said he was lying on the hospital bed. Guess what? He knew it was over. So who am I now?
Yeah.
And that's what happens with a lot of athletes, I think, at the end of the day, at the end of their career, is that you've been an athlete your entire life. You've been a goalie. You've been a player in the National Hockey League or a football player or whatever. And then there comes this point, who am I now? Yeah. Right? Who do I – and never mind athletes. I know guys that have, even moms and dads. Like, they raise their kids, the kids leave. Your entire life, a woman's been a mom, and you're still a mom, but it's different now that the kids have left. Same thing with fatherhood, right? You've been this guy who's been supporting this, and that. The kids move out, now you're like, okay, who am I now, right? Like, you have that, I don't call it an identity crisis, but you have that issue of, who am I, right? And that's...
It's all about identity.
Yeah, it holds true whether you're an athlete or whether you're an empty nester or you go through, a divorce or whatever. There comes that point where you're right. You talk about that identity and who. Hey, I went through it. I was a talk show host for 20 years. At the end of it, I'm no longer a talk show host. I'm still lucky enough to do play-by-play. But at the end of it, who am I now? What am I doing? Right? Where's my purpose?
Yep.
And no matter what you go through, you face those questions.
Yep.
Yeah, and and you might go through it like 3 or 4 times in your life.
Yes.
It might not happen just one time. You're reinventing yourself, right, over and over again, right? And it's, the loneliness thing is fascinating, because it's, and it's, when we went through COVID, one of the major causes of anxiety, depression, and mental health issues is isolation.
Yep.
So that's, those are interesting things to hear, and lack of purpose and all that. And I've been through that. I mean, played in the NHL, played in the Olympics, wrote a book, and that's not to sit here and brag about myself or anything. It's about to say, and I've gone through it where I'm like, who the hell am I now?
Yeah.
Right? Like what, and that, and then usually, I have a partner that'll smack me upside the head and tell me to get over and do the dishes. I'll show you who you are. That's what she'll say to me.
Yeah, but it's such a common experience because no matter what our roles are, like you were saying, we tend to find our purpose through that. And when our different life roles change, we lose that particular kind of purpose, if you will, or it looks different, like parenthood, and we get stuck in this void of feeling nothingness.
Yeah.
What is life about now? What is my life about now? And it sounds easy. Oh, well, just redefine yourself, do something. It's not that easy. It's not that easy. And a lot of people struggle with that.
Well, I mean, I went and sat with ayahuasca. So,
Yeah.
so we all have different ways of dealing
Yeah.
with it and doing it, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but again, it's you might have to reinvent yourself 3 or 4 times. And
I think the loneliness part that you talked about, I think that goes back to what we mentioned as well as reach out,
Yeah.
talk to some of your friends. Like, you don't have to have somebody there 24/7 perhaps, but as long as you know that there's somebody there for you, that you're not alone, right? I think that bodes well for you and your mental health. And that, I think, is a big thing is just knowing that there's somebody there for you, right?
Yeah, well, you kind of spoke to that earlier, Corey, when you were saying, is this an intervention? And sometimes people getting pissed off if there's an intervention or somebody just checking in and you're not really ready to share anything. But in the back, what's happened is I know there's a door open. And, I think that's to your point, knowing that somebody cares. I might not be ready enough to talk because I might not even know how to start that conversation, but Bobby over there, he cares. He cares about me. And, I feel some comfort in that, just knowing that I matter to somebody.
We see like a bunch of these topics all coming together when our members are away at work, right? So they're going away from their families, 2 weeks at a time, if they're on rotation or sometimes even longer. And, there's a loneliness of being alone if you're all alone. But a lot of times it's just people are away from their family. They're still around other individuals, but there's still that kind of sense of loneliness, right? You're not talking to your family, you're not talking to your kids or, whatever. Nowadays, a little different. There's FaceTime, these kinds of things. But we see like in a camp situation, guys and girls are away from their family a long time, but they get together as a group, right? They go have group dinners. They do things after work as a group. Sometimes it's drinking, but sometimes it's getting together and having that community, right? And I think that really helps.
Your team
everyone.
bonding session.
Exactly, right?
Instead of, that's the thing. I mean, just bonding as a group and relying on one another. And, you talk about Corey and professional athletes. Well, they're on the road. Guess what? 8, 10, whatever, 12 of us going out for dinner and you kind of substitute. I don't want to say you substitute your family. Maybe that's the wrong word, but you have a group that kind of becomes your family in those situations.
Yep.
it's not-
Part of your social fabric.
yeah.
Yeah.
And things to look for. Like, so for me, when I start to struggle, I withdraw. Like I'll go, I won't talk to anybody. I won't call anybody. I won't, so that's where I have a couple of buddies that'll be like, they haven't heard me from me in a couple of days. I'll get a text, Hershey, haven't heard from you in a couple of days. What's going on? How you doing? Right. So it's again, going to have a group of buddies. And one thing I love that I see sometimes is, when you go for breakfast at a restaurant, you'll see 4 little old guys sitting there. There were the 4 little, and they have, or guys at a golf, right? And they have their golf game every Sunday. Right. Like,
I love those
that's
guys when you
awesome.
walk
I
into the
love it,
Starbucks.
man. I
Like you
love
walk
it,
into the
right?
Starbucks and I used to go to the Starbucks when I worked at 1040 on Main. It's no longer there. I think it's a Benz or something now, Blends or whatever. And there'd always be like these 4 or 5 guys. They'd be sitting there. Every morning I'd walk in and it's like a ritual. They'd be talking about the game from the night before. You see that Canuck game? Oh, that third goal was awful. And like they'd have their little routine, but you're right. They'd have that little routine and that was so cool. I thought it was like, you wake up every morning, go down, walk a block or 2 or whatever, sit down at the coffee shop and you've got your BS session going on with your buddies.
Yeah,
That's what happens when you get old, though.
Yeah,
Like,
well, I mean, some of these guys have been
We'll
doing
get
these
there.
groups for 20 years,
Yeah.
right? I mean, golfing together. Those are your buddies, right? Like those are your boys. Find them. They're there, right?
Well, human beings are social animals. We need people in our lives. We need our group, our posse, whatever you want to call it. We need other people in our lives. It comes back to that thing. We want to feel like we matter to others, but we also want to be there for others. It makes us feel good being there for others. And I love the example that you were sharing, a bunch of little guys. And, it's like my wife and I, we spend some time in France, and we always see these pétanque courses, courts, like bocce or whatever. And it's always, older gentlemen mainly. They all got their berets and they're barely shuffling around. But it's the same guys every day. That's their thing. It's what brings them together. And that's often a thing for guys is that, especially the older generation, they're never really going to talk about deep stuff, but just being there shoulder to shoulder, whether they're throwing some balls at each other or maybe they're doing some woodworking together. It's just, or even throwing a football. And it's like just the sense of being together is really what matters.
And I think sometimes, like, it just, I don't know if escape's the right word. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But it also gives you an opportunity just to kind of forget about things for a little bit and realize that there's a normalcy to the world. You know what I mean? Like, you realize it kind of puts things into perspective maybe a little bit, and maybe you've been overthinking or you're like completely gone to one side, and then that interaction kind of brings you back a little bit to reality, so to speak, and you realize that, well, maybe it's not as bad as I'm thinking it might be, or whatever the case. But I just think sometimes, not on all occasions, but sometimes that provides you a sense of normalcy being around other people.
Makes you feel grounded.
Yeah.
Do you find that a lot of men struggle with the vision of what success is?
Oh God, yeah.
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
I ask this, either directly or some variant of this, is that, what does success look like? What does a good life look like? That kind of thing. And inevitably, guys will talk about work. They'll talk about finances. They will rarely, if ever, talk about joy, happiness. Yeah. And when I ask them, and it's like, what makes you happy? I don't know. I haven't really thought about that.
Yeah.
It's like if
that new car for about an hour that you worked your life for, that new house for
and then it becomes a car.
Month. Yeah.
It becomes
But they're all Band-Aid solutions.
Right,
though, right?
exactly.
It's not even a solution.
Yeah,
it's
just
like
Band-Aids.
we're missing the point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Like there's no scorecard at the end of life. No, nobody's going to say, "Oh, well, you had 4 cars. Oh, wow. You win." It doesn't work like that.
The old expression of, you guys have heard this one. Have you ever seen a hearse with a U-Haul behind it? Right? So
yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. One of the most profound experiences of my working life is very early in young adulthood. I worked in a long-term care center for 2 years. So I was around people who, for all intents and purposes, were waiting to die. And I've always had a great affinity toward older adults and had a great relationship with my grandparents, and I just love hearing their stories. And so I would just allow them space to share stories. And what I heard over and over again, it's like a lot of regrets about life. The regret, I wish I spent more time with my family. I wish I didn't work so much. I wish I would have had more adventures, seen the world. No one ever said, oh, wow, like, I really, I'm glad I worked so hard and I had this money in the bank. It makes me feel better at the end. No one talks like that.
No, you're going anyways.
Yeah,
right? You're not dodging the bullet.
Yeah.
There's only been one guy do it.
Yeah.
And think,
Yeah. So it's such an important question that you think about, and for all of us to reflect on. What does success look like? I don't even like using the word success, because it's like there's some sort of metric. It's what a good life looks like for each of us is going to look different, but it's still an important exercise for us to go through.
There was one quote that just came to my mind. Michael Irvin, the great Cowboy receiver. We were, I believe it was Houston. We were broadcasting on Saturday, and he had just been named to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And we had the opportunity to interview him on that Saturday. And he had a great quote that really stuck with me. A man shouldn't be judged by the level that he's at the end of his life. He should be judged by the journey that got him there, right? And, it to me, it really kind of hit home in the sense that where did you start and where have you finished, right? I mean, if you were born with a silver spoon and at the end you're still a silver spoon, what have you done to make the world a better place? Or what have you done to be a good person? Or what have you done to be a good partner, good father, whatever the case may be? And, then you look at someone who started off, and I'll use my dad as an example, who came to this country with a suitcase and $20 from Europe. And by the time he left this world, I was only 19, but he'd established a family, he'd established a home, he was a husband, a father, all of those things. And I look at that journey, right, and I go, that's amazing, right? Like to leave a country, go to a brand new country, establish yourself and be successful. So I think a lot of times you just have to look at the journey as well, right? I mean, where did you start and where are you going to finish, right? That's a big thing too.
Yeah, I think, the reason I ask that is because I think that a male's view of success is completely messed up. I really do, of what society wants us, that tells us what we should be and what we should do. Have the nice car, beautiful wife, whatever, beautiful home, all these, again, we go back to John Lennon about possessions. You can go all the way back there, but, and I've been through the journey myself, and ultimately what it comes down to for me is we're here to learn how to give love, receive love, and learn how to love ourselves. And the last one is the hardest thing in the world, right? We're not here to collect things. We're not here to collect cars, and because what is that going to get you? At the end of the day, we're talking about your life and your journey. What do people remember? What do they stand up and say at your funeral? Oh, he had 4 cars? No, he was funny.
Yeah.
He loved people.
He was always there for his friends.
He's always there for his friends, right?
Like nobody's talking about your material possessions.
Right?
They're talking about your personality. He was humorous. He was there. He was that guy that you pick up the phone in the middle of the night and he was there. He'd never say no. Those are the things people remember. They don't remember he drove a Porsche.
Yeah.
No,
right.
He lived in the properties. Yeah. No, they don't remember that. They remember you for the person that you are. That's a great point.
Now the family's fighting over that Porsche.
Yeah.
Right? It's like,
thanks a lot.
It's so to me, that's what we need to start teaching men is that it's not about fame and success and hit the ground running and get more money and sell more things and that, because at the end of the day, Aaron Rodgers did his documentary, and something that hit me hard for him is he was MVP of the playoffs. He won the Super Bowl, and he said, and he woke up the next morning thinking that was going to be what would make him happy. And he woke up and he's like, all right, now what?
Yep.
Yeah.
And it was just, to me, that hit home, like, because I just went, whoa, like you get that new car, I'll just feel better if I get that new car. Yeah, you feel great for about a week. You show your buddies, and then you're just driving a car that you're paying for, and it's again, to me, it comes back to loving your family, loving your friends, loving your buddy, and then a hard part is to be able to receive that love, and the last one again is to love yourself. And people always ask, well, how do I learn to love myself? It's a hard one. that's a hard one, especially for men, right? We're taught to beat ourselves down when we make mistakes, especially as a goalie. I let in a goal, 20,000 people booing me, right? How am I supposed to love myself after that?
Should have been a welder. You only get 10.
Yeah, right. And that's the journey.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's such a great point that you guys bring. I often ask guys, in the context, what is success? What's a good life? I ask them, we all know what the end point is. Before you get there, what do you want your legacy to be? And it'll often come to material things, and they think I'm referring to some grand achievement or some sort of financial success that they can, make the life easier of people that they leave behind. And it's like, no, that's not what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
How do
So
you
your
want?
kids or your grandkids.
How do you want to be?
That's your legacy.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
relationships. Relationships are our legacy.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Because what else do you have, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we can only invest ourselves so much in a relationship if we are struggling. Like if we're not our best selves, we'll never be fully invested in a relationship. So to your point, and it's like loving yourself. Well, what does that look like? What does that mean? It means being happy with the person that you are. Like understanding, the qualities and traits and values that are meaningful to you, that you see yourself as, and kind of shaping how you engage with the people in the world around you. Like I use kindness as, a really simple example. It's like, okay, I see myself as being a kind person. I want to be kind. Well, it's good to say that I'm a kind person, but you're not a kind person unless you manifest that quality. I can hold a door open. I can call a buddy. I can text them. I can say hello and have, some idle chit chat with the person at the butcher. And all of those things are kind gestures that allow me to manifest that kind quality, and I become that person.
Is that old expression? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's if you have to learn how to love yourself first before you can love anyone else.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It goes back to it's interesting, we talk, I kind of threw us on this topic, but my very first NHL game was a 2-2 tie in Detroit. I was first star. So I had a great game. And I get in the shower. I'm a 20-year-old kid. And I get in the shower, and guys are congratulating me. And one of the players, who I won't name, big name player, looks at me and he says, "Hey, kid, it's only one game. Don't fall in love with yourself." Right?
Uh-huh.
So, right? You shrink down. But that's the mentality that we give other men is like, don't love yourself too much. You're not bigger than the team. You're not bigger than this and that. Right. And it's like, you should be proud of your accomplishments. If you have them, you should, there's a difference between being an arrogant, and being somebody that's just proud of those little wins that you had, and there's people out there right now and you'll know sometimes a win is getting in the shower.
Yeah.
Like
Getting up out of bed.
getting up out of bed,
Yep.
right? Getting in the showers and having and being able to get breakfast. And there was a time where I was struggling. I called a friend and she was like, "Brush your teeth." And I was like, "What do you mean get up and brush my teeth?" I'm like, I'm in bed. I haven't been out of bed in 2 days. She's like, "Just get up and brush your teeth." Next thing you know, I brush my teeth. Next thing I know, I'm in the shower. Next thing I know, I'm downstairs, right? That was my win for the day because I called a friend, and that's what she told me to do, right? Like, and it was that small win. So if you're out there struggling right now and you're listening, you're like, well, how am I supposed to do this? How am I supposed to, you know what? Brush your teeth. Get up out of bed, right? That's a win. Have a shower. That's a win, and be proud of that.
Yep.
Be proud
Absolutely.
of that.
I use a mountain climbing analogy to get to this very same point. Say you're at the base of a mountain. I'm good. I want to get up there, but I'm down here. It feels impossible. Well, does anybody ever leap to the top of a mountain? No. It's literally one small step after another.
I attribute this quote to me. It's one of the great quotes of all time. It should be a quote. I used it with my daughter when she did homework.
Oh, yeah?
The quote was this, and I've given this quote to other people. If you're looking at the peak of a mountain, don't focus on the peak. Focus on your next step.
Exactly.
And that's what you do.
Yeah.
You got to climb that mountain. And like she'd come home and she'd go, I got science, I've got math. She's like, all this. I said, hey, I go, one thing at a time.
Yeah.
Focus on one task at a time. Don't look at that entire mountain of homework that you have and think, how am I going to do this?
Yep.
Focus on how am I going to do math? Or how am I going to do science? And just, like I said, if you don't focus on the mountain, don't focus on the peak, just focus on your next step. And that's how you climb a mountain, one step at a time.
Same thing.
Well,
Absolutely.
you went right out of high school, had your own radio show, didn't you?
Trust me, I didn't. I was bouncing around doing a whole bunch of stuff. Like I was writing for a paper. I coached football for 4 years at UBC. Then I was writing for a paper, and then I basically got into radio. But it's like one of the things that, like with her, like she'd always get overwhelmed, and I just think to me, one step at a time. Brush your teeth.
Yeah, man.
Right?
Yeah.
And then what's the next step? Well, the next step is maybe getting dressed. The next step is maybe going for a walk, right?
And be proud of it.
And just one step at a time.
Be
That's all you
proud
got to
of it.
do.
You
right?
know?
And move from there.
We need those small victories, those small wins, because collectively they get us to the top of the mountain.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
You know?
It's going to be the notes in the bottom of the podcast is going to just be brush your teeth.
And feel good about it.
Yeah, well, of course.
Yeah.
We will put in the notes, and I say we, I mean Mark, our producer, is going to put in the notes. We'll list everyone's podcast that you guys were on previously. So please, you've already gotten this far in this one, but revert back, check those other podcasts. What I'd like to touch on just before we kind of wrap it up is just give us a brief kind of overview of Heads Up Guys. How many people you kind of have contact with, what that looks like, and if anyone's listening to this, you're either calling your friends or your friends are calling you, ideally, right? So if you don't have anyone to call, Heads Up Guys is a good resource that people can reach out to. So I'd like you just to kind of hit some wave tops on that.
Well, in a nutshell, Heads Up Guys is a resource where guys can learn to look after their own mental health better. And also, if you have a guy in your life who's struggling, you want to know how to help him, this is also a place for you. There's a lifetime of information on there. And when I talk about self-help, I'm not saying just, you got to go this alone and here's your roadmap. That's not it. It includes that, but very importantly, it's about how to bring other people onto your team, if you will. You build your support team. One of the things that guys are often afraid of when they think about reaching out for help, well, I'll lose control. Guys like to have control. No, this is actually the opposite. Yeah. You're taking control of your life. If I'm reaching out to you, Corey, it's like I need you. I'm bringing you onto my team. It's really important. And if it's a health professional, same thing. And it's like, you've got something that I need, so I need your support. It's like my car. If my car breaks down, I don't know how the hell to fix this thing. I'm calling the mechanic, or my knee, I'm calling the physio. And it's like, we don't even think twice about it with our own noodles, in our health and our life. If I'm struggling, I'm feeling overwhelmed, and I don't have all the tools in my toolbox to manage that, well, I'm going to bring people in so I can learn how to navigate this, and I'll learn something along the way. You're asking how many people. Like, we get more than 10,000 people a week coming to this thing. And if you think about it, that's a lot. And since we launched in 2015, we've had over 6 million people use this. It's shocking. And from all over the world.
Yeah. And that number, when you throw out that statistic, it's like it's sobering, obviously, and it scares me a bit, but it also makes me go, you know what? That's awesome that you had that many people reach out to you guys, and reach out and look
making
for help,
a difference.
Right? Yeah, making a huge difference.
Yeah.
You guys are doing amazing. And,
thank you. Yeah.
And again, thank you for what you have, because like I'm out there, I go and I do my talks and all that stuff, but you guys are doing the work, and you guys are really helping people. So I think it's really cool. So
thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
I appreciate that. We're all doing our part. None of us can do this alone. We need to do it together. And again, I think, if you come back to guys having their posse, their team, whatever it is, think about it in that way. We all have a role to play in moving the goalpost, or, the yardsticks forward. And, we're doing our role. You guys are doing your roles. And it's like together we'll make a big difference. Alone will just make a little difference.
Well said.
Yep. Corey, I don't know if you want to give a shout out for yourself, how people can reach you, get in contact with you. Obviously not your personal cell phone number, but the first time I had the opportunity to meet you was in Kelowna. You spoke at one of our events.
Right. Yeah.
I sat there. I was like, wow, this is like, I went and got the book after. So Save of My Life by Corey Hirsch.
Thank you.
Awesome book. I've read it twice, front to back. We'll put something after the podcast. Mark will get it set up. I put a lot on Mark, obviously. A lot of promises that I can't keep, but someone's gonna subscribe, whatever. We're gonna give a copy of your book away.
Thank you.
To someone. But yeah, if you wanna throw a plug to how people can get to you if they need to, or if they want to have you speak at one of their events.
Yeah, Corey at CoreyHirsch.com. I'm an ambassador for a benefits and health company called ICBA. You can go through them too as well. Corey Hirsch 72 on Instagram. Reach out, DM me. I refuse to go on Twitter anymore, or X or whatever it is.
Successful.
Oh my God. Talk about mental health issues and how much social media. We didn't even get into that, right?
That's another episode.
Yeah, it's for another episode. But thank you for that. And that's where you can reach me, and just enjoying getting out there and talking to people and doing talks, corporations, high schools, sports groups. I'll talk to anybody that'll listen.
Good. Please keep doing that.
Thank you. Yeah.
Any final words there, Moj?
Be kind.
Love it. You couldn't have said it better.
Yeah, just be kind. Like my significant other always mentions that. I don't know if she follows that practice when I screw up, but just be kind. Be kind to people, right? I mean, you don't know. Sometimes maybe just the smallest gesture will have the biggest impact, right? So just be kind to one another and be there for one another and be a good friend.
I love that. Another thing we got going on, Mark. So we have, should have probably said this at the start, but we've been filmed before our live studio audience, which is not very common, which I actually haven't been cognizant of. They're just sitting here so quietly, but we have some individuals here that are going to make a donation to Heads Up Guys. So I don't know how you want to do that logistically, Mark, if they're going to walk in the scene here or come and introduce themselves.
It's more of a running total of how much they have donated to Heads Up Guys.
Yep. Come on in. Come on in. There's a microphone here.
You can take this one.
Yep. Come on. Pile in. I'll step to the side here. Come on in. Come in. Keep coming around. Coming around. Coming around.
Okay.
So. Yep.
I'm Tabitha Forsyth, and the money that we raise is in honor of our son, Dylan. And we don't have famous people. We don't have big people. All we have are Dylan's friends and family. And together we've raised over $33,000 in golf and another $20,000 in softball. So this is to Heads Up Guys, and hopefully our little donation can help a few people.
Well, thank you. And you guys are probably the longest serving supporters of us doing your events of any that we have. And yes, of course, the money makes a world of difference because Heads Up Guys operates strictly on the basis of support from the public. So without this kind of support, we literally don't exist. But more so than that, you're creating awareness. And I say it, and it's not, I'm not flippant when I say that awareness saves lives. It really does. So every time you guys have an event and share with others what the event is about, why you're doing it, you're letting other people know that help is out there, and you don't know when or where or who you are saving a life, but you are, because we hear from them after. So for that, I'm eternally grateful for.
You're very welcome.
Happy to do it.
So this is a picture here of Dylan. He's on the set. probably since day one. So he's always at the podcast. So we appreciate the gesture. It's really kind of you.
Well, thank you for having us here tonight and to meet some famous people. Kind of cool.
Good job, guys.
And you got to
well
meet
done.
these guys too.
We're happy to do it and happy to share our story, and hopefully, it does help.
Well, we were talking about legacies earlier, and this is a tremendous legacy, and it will never erase the loss, erase the pain, bring your son back, but just know that through this, his loss is, and through your efforts too, it's changing other people's lives. It really is.
So thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much, guys.
I don't know why I'm still wearing the headphones as I'm talking, but
You're still listening to yourself.
oh yeah.
Yeah, it's that was a sobering finish to the podcast, but I'd like to thank all of you for your time. It's important for the movement. Is that appropriate? It's people pushing this forward because it doesn't push itself, right? So, thanks again for that.
Yeah.
You're
Thank you.
welcome. Thank you for making this happen.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, you're welcome. Anytime. Mark's pointing at the camera. He's like, this camera. So if you, wherever you're getting the podcast from, people, if you're listening on Spotify, if you're watching on YouTube, like, subscribe. That helps get the message out. We'll take some people from the likes and subscribes. We'll do a poll and or a raffle, and we'll send you guys a book. We'll reach out to you. When I say we, I mean Mark again. And thanks, everyone, for listening.